I'm Aaron Wolf. I'm at the Wilmington College Westheimer Peace Symposium.
And what was the focus of your talk this afternoon?
Well, the focus was on how water conflicts come about and how they can be resolved or better prevented to begin with.
And what do you think was one of the most important things students or community members could take away from your talk today?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, that water is a source of cooperation as well as of conflict, that water is a great way to bring different stakeholders in a room, stakeholders that may not necessarily like each other particularly. Once they're in the room, it gives them a language to talk about their shared future, and that's true at the country scale. It's true of Arabs and Israelis, as well as environmentalists and ranchers and urban folk.
All right. How did you feel about the crowd today?
The crowd was very engaged, very knowledgeable, and quite large.
All right. And where are you off to next? Are you heading back to your university?
I am heading back to Oregon State University.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Charles Fishman. I'm the author of the book The Big Thirst, and I'm here at Wilmington College for the 21st Westheimer Peace Symposium, and we were talking about water this year.
All right. And what specifically was the focus of your talk this morning?
Well, I've spent 3 years trying to understand our relationship to water, and I think we are at a key moment when there's going to be a lot more water scarcity to cope with, but also there is a whole new age of water innovation blossoming. And so those two things sort of match up nicely in the sense that scarcity is going to cause problems in the developed world, in the United States, and also in the developing world. But just at the moment that population growth and climate change are changing water availability, we are seeing an incredible blossoming of innovation and fresh thinking about how to use water. So I wanted to do two things this morning. I wanted to warn people about a coming era in which they'll have to pay more attention to water, and I wanted to give people a sense of hope and optimism about the possibilities that are coming for managing that era.
And where all have you been in your research for both the book and what you discussed today?
Well, I've had a great time. I spent a month in Australia learning about Australia's water problems. Australia is a country of exactly the same kind of economic heft and culture and quality as the U.S., and yet they have almost run out of water, so they've had to remake themselves using less water, and I wanted to see what that was like. I spent a month in India, a fast-growing, developing world nation that has more than enough water, and yet half the people in India don't have access to water every day. And even the people who live in cities who do have access to water, typically cities in India only provide water an hour or two a day. So I wanted to see what it was like for a country to have enough water and yet not manage to supply that water. And I've been to all kinds of other places. I spent 3 weeks in Las Vegas trying to understand the way they manage water in the desert. I spent 2 weeks in Galveston, Texas, right after Hurricane Ike, when the city was actually formally closed. None of the citizens were allowed in Galveston, watching the Galveston Water Department try and restore a water system that had been completely destroyed by Hurricane Ike. So I've really had the privilege of going around the world to write this book, and the most startling impression you get is that people really are grabbing hold of their own water problems and trying to solve them, and that really gives you a sense of optimism.
All right. And then did anything strike you about Wilmington today, or anything about the crowd? How did you feel about the crowd or group or anything like that?
I'm impressed with several things about Wilmington. I'm impressed first that a relatively small college like this takes on a day-long kind of seminar to try and dig into an issue from a bunch of different aspects. People here are incredibly friendly and engaged, which is great. Half the people in the audience seem to be from the community, which is truly remarkable and kind of a credit to Wilmington College. And myself aside, the people that the college has chosen to bring in, Professor Wolf, Chad Progracki, what really interesting people. I've never thought about trying to use spiritual means to solve any kind of conflicts, let alone water conflicts. And so I really enjoyed that, and Chad Pegracki's out there literally pulling junk out of rivers every day, and so I really look forward to that as well. So I think both in terms of the people being offered by the college and the audience, it's just a great combination.
My name is Chad Pegracki, founder and president of Living Lands and Waters, which is an organization dedicated to helping clean up America's rivers.
All right. And what kind of focus is your talk going to have tonight?
Well, I don't know. I'm not really that focused on a person, so I'll kind of wait and see. It's about making a difference as an individual, and pretty much my story of helping to clean up rivers and what it's grown into with a lot of teamwork and a couple jokes in between. And no, it should be good though. I mean, based on the presenters that I saw today, and then the crowd and the reaction, I think it'll be well received, and it's just an honor to be here.
Okay. How long have you been cleaning up America's rivers?
I started cleaning up rivers about 14 years ago, and just started on the Mississippi, and it's expanded out to a lot more. Work on the Ohio a lot, Mississippi, Illinois, Missouri, and as far out east as Washington, D.C., and Potomac and Anacostia, and then a lot of smaller rivers in between, but mainly the bigger rivers is what we focus on, and we have barges and tugboats and cranes, and so it's like an industrial strength river cleanup operation.
What is the craziest thing you remember seeing through the cleanups that you've done over the years?
The craziest thing we pulled out was probably I have the world's largest message in a bottle collection, which is pretty cool. I mean, money, bank robbery, evidence from bank robberies, a lot of safes, a lot of bowling balls, I don't know, bodies, you name it, a lot of good stuff. You never know what you're going to find, makes it interesting.
All right. Thank you.